Hey guys, having trouble sleeping tonight again? Picture this. You open your eyes in the half-dark of a smoky cave. The fire beside you, nothing more than a faint orange glow. The air is cold enough to sting your nose, and the only blanket you've got is a stretched animal skin that smells faintly of last night's rain. Outside you hear a branch snap. Is it a rabbit you could catch for breakfast? Or is it a lion sniffing around, eager for a human snack? Honestly, I don't think you'd even manage to find breakfast if you had to hunt like in the Stone Age. I know I wouldn't. If this story brings you peace, please like and subscribe to our channel. Settle down, listen carefully, and together, let's enjoy this tender tale that will help you drift off into the most delightful, restful sleep. Take a deep breath. Share in the comments how you're feeling tonight, whether you're restless, happy, or carrying worries that feel a little too heavy. Let's lay them down together right here. Rest your head, slow your thoughts, and together we'll step into a soothing place where dreams begin to bloom. The day begins in the Stone Age long before sunlight spills across the hills. The rhythm of life is ruled not by alarms or cell phones, but by the demands of survival. A child stirs awake to the sound of embers crackling. Her mother hunched near the fire, blowing gently to coax the flame back into life. Sparks dance upward, clinging for a moment to the smoky ceiling of the cave before vanishing into darkness. The scent of burning wood mixes with the musk of animal skins stretched across the rocky floor. People in this world rise with caution. Every morning is a test. The first sounds outside the cave, chirps, rustles, cracks, are carefully interpreted. A simple morning walk could bring food or death. And so, instead of stretching lazily, they prepare. Men, women, even children. Their ears sharpened to the distant growls of predators. Modern researchers point out that these senses tuned so carefully are still within us today. That's why you jump when you hear an unexpected bang outside your apartment window, an echo of an ancient reflex. One mainstream truth often overlooked is how harsh the environment could be. Archaeologists tell us that during cold glacial mornings, temperatures dipped so low that without a fire, exposed skin froze in minutes. People wore heavy hides stitched crudely with bone needles, but these garments still let in icy drafts. Forget central heating, your best hope was to curl tightly with your family sharing body warmth. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age mornings were leisurely, but evidence of soot layers in caves suggests that tending fires was a non-stop responsibility, sometimes even done in shifts through the night. A quirky tidbit emerges from some digs, the discovery of burnt grass beds layered with insect-repelling herbs. Imagine lying on a primitive mattress made from thick grass, tucked with aromatic leaves of wild mint or wormwood. Not only did this make sleeping more comfortable, but it kept ticks and mosquitoes at bay. Researchers found such remains at sites in South Africa, proving that people 200,000 years ago cared about a decent night's sleep almost as much as we do, though they lacked memory foam pillows. Stepping outside the cave, the first light paints long shadows across the land. Frost sparkles on the grass, and distant steam rises from a herd of grazing animals. A family watches carefully, debating whether the day should begin with gathering roots nearby or risking a hunt. Hunger gnaws at them, but fear sharpens their judgment. Outside the world is beautiful yet merciless. Even within this raw environment, laughter exists. A child slips on icy stone, and the sound of giggles bounces through the cave mouth. Humans have always needed humor. It's one of the strange comforts that transcends time. You can almost hear a parent teasing, "Careful, you'll wake the bear," with that clumsy step, half joke, half warning. Morning rituals are simple, but vital. Faces are splashed with cold water from a nearby stream. Fires are rekindled using flintstones struck together, each spark a small miracle. The act of starting fire is not just survival, it's community magic. Imagine being the one who could coax flames when others failed. You'd be the rock star of the clan, as famous as any celebrity chef today. And always the lingering dread of predators. Stories told at night remind children to stay close. Warning of leopards who creep silently, or wolves who circle the shadows. These tales are both protective lessons and primitive bedtime stories early parents. It seems understood the power of storytelling to pass down knowledge while soothing young minds. By the time the sun lifts fully over the horizon, the tribe is already in motion. Spears lean against the cave wall. Woven baskets are strapped across shoulders, and voices murmur in low tones about what direction to take. The day stretches ahead, uncertain, dangerous, but filled with possibility. Each dawn in the Stone Age is a gamble between hunger and hope. And in that gamble, the shocking truth is simple. Waking up was never just about opening your eyes. It was about preparing to fight for another day. Breakfast in the Stone Age is not a predictable affair. You don't roll out of bed, shuffle to the kitchen, and pour a bowl of cereal. Instead, you wake with your stomach already grumbling, and your mind running through mental lists of what might still be edible nearby. Maybe there are some acorns left from yesterday's gathering if the squirrels haven't beaten you to them. Perhaps a few bitter roots dug up and roasted over the smoky fire. Or if luck really smiles, a handful of berries still clinging to frost-tipped branches. The mainstream fact is stark food scarcity shaped every decision. Archaeologists studying isotopes in ancient bones have found that Stone Age diets varied widely depending on where you lived, but the common thread was uncertainty. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age mornings began with a reliable feast, but in reality, skipping breakfast or lunch or dinner was often the norm. Sometimes days passed with only meager snacks. When you did finally catch something substantial, you ate until you couldn't move, because who knew when the next chance would come? Yet surprisingly, some mornings did bring what we might consider shocking snacks. A quirky tidbit from cave sites shows evidence of roasted grass seeds mixed with crushed nuts. Picture an early form of granola, except without honey yogurt, or the smug health influencer telling you it's superfood. Sometimes archaeologists find grindstones coated in starch residues, proving that people experimented with turning seeds into a kind of paste or porridge. It might not have been Instagram worthy, but it was filling enough to keep legs moving. The scramble for breakfast starts with movement. Women and children crouch near bushes, gently tugging up tubers. Men test their spears, eyeing the tree line for small game like rabbits. In many groups, those gender lines blur. Some women hunted, some men foraged, and children joined in wherever they could. Hunger has no patience for rigid roles. Still, danger hums in the background. Every berry bush carries risk. One wrong choice between edible blackberries and poisonous nightshade could turn a quick snack into tragedy. And yet, trial and error was the ancient teacher. How did people avoid constant poisoning? Likely through careful observation of animals, passed down wisdom, and a healthy dose of courage. Imagine a parent instructing their child with mock seriousness. Eat the red ones, and you'll see visions of dancing mammoths. Stick to the blue, and you'll live to hunt another day. Half a joke, half desperate truth. On lucky days, the smell of roasting meat drifts from the fire. Perhaps someone managed to catch a hare with a thrown stone, or a group cornered a bird with nets woven from grass. The crackle of fat dripping into flames fills the air with a mouth-watering promise. Bones are cracked open afterward to suck out marrow, a calorie-packed delicacy many modern people would wrinkle their noses at, but which Stone Age folk savoured as if it were chocolate cake. One curious debate persists among researchers. Did people actually eat breakfast as a separate meal, or was eating simply continuous grazing throughout the day? Some argue that the concept of a morning meal is a much later invention, tied to farming schedules. In the Stone Age, the rule was simpler. Eat whenever you could in whatever amount you could. There was no intermittent fasting trend. Life was one long fast broken by moments of frantic feasting, and always fire ties the process together. Picture a small group huddled around embers, roasting roots that hiss as they split, releasing steam into the chilly air. Children blow gently, pretending to help, while adults share quiet laughter. The warmth of flames makes the simple act of chewing into a moment of celebration. Hunger loosens its grip, if only for a little while. Breakfast in the Stone Age wasn't about taste or presentation or routine. It was about survival. Each bite was fuel for the long day of hunting gathering and avoiding becoming breakfast yourself. And maybe, just maybe, when the berries were sweet or the meat roasted perfectly, someone leaned back, licked their fingers and thought, "This is the best thing I've ever eaten." Until tomorrow, when hunger would say otherwise. Danger isn't something that sneaks up quietly in the Stone Age. It breathes down your neck from the moment you step outside the cave. The early morning light barely touches the ground before shadows stir in the tall grass. A rustle here, a snap there, and suddenly every muscle in your body is alert. That nagging awareness you feel when walking home alone at night. For Stone Age families, it wasn't paranoia. It was survival instinct. The mainstream fact is sobering predators were everywhere. Saber-toothed cats with fangs longer than your hand, giant cave bears standing taller than two grown men, and packs of wolves lurking in the distance, all made daily life a high-stakes gamble. Archaeological finds of puncture wounds on bones show that humans were just as likely to be prey as predator. To this day, many people still believe humans ruled their world early on, but evidence paints a different picture. Stone Age people were vulnerable creatures in a food chain, where they weren't always at the top. One quirky tidbit lies in the fossilized footprints found at Letoli in Tanzania. Alongside delicate human imprints, researchers spotted traces of big cats trailing nearby. Imagine it a family walking together, children's small steps pressed into soft earth, and just a short distance away, paw prints of a predator following them. Was it stalking curious or waiting for nightfall? That frozen snapshot in the dirt is a reminder that a casual stroll in the Stone Age was anything but casual. The clan moves with constant vigilance. Spears and clubs are carried not just for hunting, but as protection. Children are shushed when they laugh too loudly. Even gathering berries comes with someone standing guard eyes, scanning the tree line. The air itself feels tense, charged with the possibility of a sudden chase. And yet fear is laced with routine. People learn tricks to lessen danger. Fires at the edge of encampments help keep predators at bay, since most animals dislike the flames. Sharp stakes driven into the ground around sleeping areas acted like primitive fences. In some regions, groups built huts partially above ground or used cliffsides for shelter, so that only one approach had to be defended. Scholarly debate continues over whether these threats united communities or sowed constant tension. Some argue that shared danger forced people to cooperate more deeply than we imagine, while others believe that fear sparked rivalries and suspicions, with groups competing fiercely for the safest caves and richest hunting grounds. Whatever the answer, the reality was clear: complacency could kill. Humor, however, always sneaks in. Imagine a parent teasing their child, "Don't wander too far," or the saber-toothed will invite you to dinner and you'll be the main course. The warning lands with a chuckle, but the child glances nervously toward the trees. Even in jokes, danger lurks. Every path carries choices. Do you risk the forest where food might be abundant, but shadows conceal predators? Or do you climb the hills where visibility is better, but winds chill the bones and prey? Animals are scarce. These daily calculations shape the rhythm of Stone Age life, and the stakes make even modern traffic jams look laughable. The shocking truth is this survival meant living with fear as a constant companion. Yet it also meant resilience. Humans learned to sharpen their senses, read the movements of animals, and use strategy instead of brute strength. It wasn't domination that allowed them to survive. It was awareness, adaptability, and the refusal to freeze when danger prowled near. And as the sun rises higher, warming the land and chasing back some of the shadows, the clan pushes forward. Fear hasn't vanished, but hunger urges them on. With each cautious step, they balance on the thin line between becoming hunters and becoming prey. Tools in the Stone Age may sound primitive, but the truth is they were anything but clumsy. Imagine crouching near a stream, holding a chunk of flint and carefully striking it against another stone. Sparks fly, flakes chip away, and before long, you've shaped a razor-sharp edge capable of slicing through hidewood or flesh. Honestly, some of these knives could give your modern kitchen cutlery a run for its money, minus the ergonomic handle and dishwasher-safe promise on the box. The mainstream fact is clear: stone tools mark one of humanity's most important leaps forward. Archaeologists divide eras of early life partly by the sophistication of tools. The older one, tools dating back over 2 million years, were little more than choppers and scrapers. Later, the Acheulean hand axes emerged, their symmetrical teardrop shapes so carefully crafted that some researchers argue they were as much works of art as weapons. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age tools were random rock shards, but evidence shows a deliberate process of design, technique, and even teaching. A quirky tidbit lies in the discovery of microscopic wear patterns on ancient blades. When examined under high-tech microscopes, these edges show scratches from cutting meat, scraping hides, or even whittling wood into spears. It's the Stone Age version of CSI. A tool's scratches are its fingerprints, telling stories of ancient tasks. Even more surprising, residues of plants stuck to some blades suggest that these early innovators weren't just hunters, but skilled in processing plant fibers, perhaps making cords, ropes, or even the earliest woven baskets. The scene is one of concentration. A group gathers in a semicircle, each person focused on their own rock. Children watch wide-eyed as adults demonstrate the tricky angles needed to flake the stone just right. Miss the strike and you shatter the piece. Get it right, and you produce a glimmering edge that could change your clan's chances of survival. There's pride in the craft, a quiet reverence, as if the stone itself holds secrets waiting to be unlocked. Scholarly debates simmer around the purpose of some tools. Did hand axes serve mainly as butchering knives, or were they also social symbols, like a Stone Age equivalent of a luxury watch? Some researchers suggest that carrying a perfectly shaped axe might have been a way of showing off skill and status. Look at me. I can feed the group and carve a mammoth into steaks with style. Jokes likely flew too. Imagine one clumsy hunter cracking his rock into useless pebbles, while his friend teased niece work, "You've invented gravel." Humor aside, the skill was taken seriously. A poorly made blade could mean the difference between fresh meat and empty stomachs. The shocking truth is that these tools weren't just survival gear. They were the first whispers of human ingenuity, engineering, and even artistry. By shaping the world with their hands, people set the stage for everything that followed: architecture, technology, and the very idea of invention. Each sharp edge cut through more than hides and branches. It cut through the limits of what humans thought possible. As the fire crackles nearby and sparks drift upward into the smoky air, the clan lays out their newly made tools ready for the challenges ahead. Each blade gleams faintly in the morning light, promising both danger and opportunity. In their simple yet brilliant designs lies the essence of humanity's story: resourceful, creative, and always hungry for more than mere survival. The image of Stone Age life we often carry in our heads is one of big, brawny men striding off with spears, while women stay behind in caves, tending fires and gathering berries. But here's where things get surprising. The reality wasn't nearly so black and white. Evidence increasingly suggests that women too joined the hunt, and sometimes with as much ferocity as the men. Honestly, if you had a chance to catch a meal, would you really say, "Sorry, that's not my job"? Of course not. Hunger trumps stereotypes every time. The mainstream fact is that hunting was dangerous, exhausting, and often required as many hands as possible. At a famous site in the Andes, archaeologists uncovered the grave of a young woman, buried with an impressive toolkit of hunting weapons, spears, and projectile points. Her bones showed she lived around 9,000 years ago, and the items weren't ceremonial trinkets. They were the real deal. To this day, many people still believe that only men were hunters in the Stone Age. But discoveries like this challenge the old assumption. A quirky tidbit adds spice to this truth. Footprints found in Utah's White Sands National Park show a woman carrying a child across soft mud, with tracks of mammoths and giant sloths nearby. The prints suggest she walked quickly, likely under pressure, and on her return trip, she left no child's footprints alongside her own, meaning she probably delivered the little one to safety and ran back alone through predator-filled terrain. If that isn't courage, what is in practice? Hunting required teamwork. A small band might surround a herd of deer, while others lay in wait at choke points along a valley. Women could have been scouts, drivers, or even the ones hurling spears at the right moment. Children, too, sometimes joined in chasing smaller prey or acting as lookouts. Everyone had a role because the margin for error was razor thin. Fail and the group might go hungry for days. Scholarly debate continues about the division of labor. Some researchers argue that while men often focused on larger game, women excelled at trapping smaller animals, fishing, or setting snares. Others insist that the roles overlapped far more than we once assumed, with necessity blurring the neat categories. In truth, daily life rarely fits into tidy boxes. It's messy, practical, and defined by survival needs, rather than tradition. The hunt itself was raw theatre. Imagine women and men crouched side by side in tall grass, hearts pounding as mammoths trudge closer. The air hums with anticipation, spears poised, every sense sharpened. Someone whispers a joke. If we miss, at least we'll be the mammoth's dinner guests. A shaky laugh ripples through the group, half courage, half nerves. Then, with a sudden cry, they spring forward, and the chaos of pursuit begins. The shocking truth here isn't just that women hunted, it's that the entire idea of Stone Age gender roles may need rewriting. Strength wasn't defined by muscle alone, but by endurance, skill, and courage. Women carried children, foraged, and still had the resilience to join dangerous hunts. The picture of a passive gatherer waiting at home doesn't match the bones, the tools, or the footprints left in the mud thousands of years ago. As dusk falls and the clan drags their catch back toward the fire, laughter and exhaustion mingle in the smoky air. Men and women alike slump onto hides, their bodies sore, their stomachs growling in anticipation. The prey wasn't easy to bring down, but they did it together. And in the flickering glow, one thing becomes clear: survival in the Stone Age was a shared responsibility, and anyone strong and bold enough to chase mammoths or face down predators earned the right to be called a hunter. Food in the Stone Age doesn't always match our picture of roasted mammoth haunches and endless steaks. More often than not, meals included things that would make a modern diner pause mid-bite. If you thought kale smoothies were bad, wait until you hear about beetle breakfasts and roasted lizards. Honestly, you might think twice about complaining the next time your salad dressing tastes bland. The mainstream fact is that Stone Age diets were astonishingly varied. Archaeologists examining ancient campsites find not only animal bones, but also piles of shells, charred insect remains, and even fish scales. People ate what the environment gave them, and that often meant creatures we today might squirm at. In Africa, termites roasted in hot ash provided protein and fat. In Europe, snails and frogs were on the menu. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age diets were all about big game. But the truth is that small, squirmy food sources often kept groups alive when hunts failed. A quirky tidbit comes from ancient coprolites, yes, fossilized poop. Under the microscope, researchers have discovered fragments of prickly pear seeds, fish bones, and even insect wings. Imagine your plate tonight sprinkled with crunchy beetle topping. Stone Age fine dining served rustic style. What seemed strange to us was a vital lifeline for them, as insects and small reptiles could be caught quickly and roasted in minutes. The process of finding these snacks was clever. Children were often sent to overturn logs, scoop up grubs, or chase lizards into traps. Women dug into termite mounds with sticks, while men fished with sharpened spears. It wasn't glamorous, but it was efficient. A few handfuls of roasted locusts could provide the same calories as a chunk of meat, and with far less risk of being gored by an aurochs. Debates continue among scholars about just how central these foods were. Some argue that insect protein formed a staple, while others believe they were more of a backup when large game wasn't available. Either way, the archaeological record shows they weren't ignored. Even the bones of giant snails, some larger than your hand, have been found in middens, clear evidence of prehistoric escargot. Bon appetit. And of course, marrow was the hidden treasure. When a hunt succeeded, bones were cracked open with stones, and the fatty marrow was sucked greedily. This rich food provided essential energy in cold climates. Imagine the scene: laughter around a fire, children smacking stones against bones, until one splits with a sharp crack, followed by cheers as the creamy marrow dribbles out. It was the Stone Age equivalent of opening a surprise snack pack. Even humor touched these meals. Picture a family sitting in a smoky cave, someone joking, "Who wants the crunchy wings tonight?" as roasted beetles pop between teeth. The child who turns up their nose quickly learns hunger makes you less picky. In a world without refrigerators, food didn't wait. It was eaten quickly or lost. The shocking truth is that survival pushed humans to embrace foods we now consider gross. But these choices helped shape resilience and adaptability. Eating insects, frogs, and marrow wasn't desperation. It was strategy. The willingness to expand the menu kept humans alive when other predators starved. As the fire burns low and night creeps in the day's meal, whether a roasted hare or a handful of termites is shared equally. Full stomachs bring laughter, relief, and perhaps even a song or two. Strange snacks or not, they mean one more night of life in a world that never guaranteed tomorrow. Homes in the Stone Age weren't the cozy dens we sometimes imagine. Forget plush couches, fluffy pillows, or double-glazed windows. Living spaces were often drafty, smoky, and downright uncomfortable. A cave might look like a safe shelter from the outside, but inside it could be damp, cold, and echoing with the constant risk of falling rocks or unwelcome animal visitors. Honestly, you'd probably spend half your time wishing for a cheap Airbnb instead. The mainstream fact is that Stone Age homes varied widely depending on climate and resources. Some groups did indeed live in caves, leaving behind soot stains and stone hearths that archaeologists still uncover today. Others built huts from wood, bones, and hides. In Ukraine, mammoth bone houses have been found where massive tusks form the framework for circular shelters covered with hides to keep out the cold. To this day, many people still believe that everyone lived in caves, but evidence proves that Stone Age humans were far more inventive when it came to housing. One quirky tidbit is the discovery of post holes and charred wood arranged in circles on ancient sites. These suggest that people built semi-permanent huts, some big enough to house multiple families. Imagine a smoky dome-shaped hut, the roof sagging under animal skins, with a hole cut at the top to let smoke escape. Except, the smoke didn't always escape. Studies of ancient skulls show evidence of lung damage from constant inhalation of soot. So while the fire kept you warm, it also slowly harmed your health. Stone Age life really didn't come with a warranty. Inside these homes, comfort was minimal but functional. Grass mats or piled furs served as bedding. Storage pits were dug into the ground to keep food cooler. Fire pits glowed in the center, with families huddling around for both warmth and light. Decorations weren't absent either. Bits of ochre pigment smeared on walls or ornaments strung from animal bones hint at a desire to make homes feel personal, not just practical. Scholarly debate lingers over whether these structures were temporary or part of long-term settlements. Some researchers argue that nomadic groups dismantled and rebuilt shelters as they moved, while others point to evidence of repeated rebuilding in the same spots, suggesting a sense of home base. Either way, the idea that Stone Age people were constantly on the move isn't the full picture. Sometimes they returned to familiar places season after season. Humor, even in these rough shelters, likely softened the discomfort. Picture someone sneezing in a smoky hut and another clan member muttering, "Bless you, now open the smoke hole before we all choke." Laughter ripples through the group, even as everyone's eyes water from the haze. The shocking truth is that these homes were both ingenious and fragile. They shielded people from storms, predators, and freezing winds, yet they were far from the cozy caves of cartoons. The air was thick, the floors were muddy, and pests crept in constantly. Still, they offered something priceless: safety, however temporary, and a place to gather as a family. As night falls, the fire in the center of a hut crackles and flares. Shadows flicker across rough walls and tired bodies curl under hides. The wind howls outside, rattling the flimsy frame, but within the fragile bubble of human warmth holds firm. For one more night, the home, drafty, smoky, and imperfect, has done its job. Love in the Stone Age isn't the kind of romance you'd swipe right for on an app today. There were no candlelit dinners, no red roses, and certainly no playlists of moody songs to set the tone. But affection, partnership, and family ties, those were just as real and maybe even stronger, because life itself depended on them. Honestly, Tinder dates would feel a lot less awkward if the icebreaker was, "Want to help me chase that mammoth together?" The mainstream fact is that Stone Age families were built around small groups, often bands of 20 to 50 people. Within these close-knit circles, bonds were essential for survival. Pairings between men and women weren't just about love. They were about teamwork, child-rearing, and sharing the daily grind of survival. Archaeological evidence of shared burials, ornaments exchanged, and even wear patterns on teeth from carrying cords or holding fibers suggests that both partners contributed heavily to daily life. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age women stayed at home, but archaeological evidence suggests otherwise. Many of them hunted, gathered, and defended their families alongside the men. One quirky tidbit comes from skeletons found buried hand in hand, sometimes with personal ornaments like beads or ochre sprinkled over their bodies. While we can't know their full stories, it's hard not to see these as ancient expressions of love and connection. Another clue comes from tooth necklaces. Some argue they weren't just fashion statements, but tokens of affection. Imagine giving your sweetheart a wolf fang necklace instead of a diamond ring. Practical, intimidating, and stylish all at once. Courtship rituals were probably simple, but meaningful. Sharing food, exchanging ornaments, or dancing around the fire could have been ways of signaling interest. Some scholars speculate that songs or rhythmic drumming played a role in bonding, with music weaving intimacy long before written words or poetry. A young man showing off his skill in making tools, or a young woman demonstrating knowledge of edible plants, might have been as attractive as a fancy car or good job title today. Debates continue about family structure. Were relationships monogamous, or did clans practice more open pairings to keep the genetic pool healthy? Some argue that flexible bonds were the norm, shaped by survival needs, while others point to long-term partnerships evidenced in joint burials. Whatever the exact structure, children were raised collectively, with the whole group stepping in. Picture kids running wild around the camp, being corrected not just by parents, but by grandparents, aunts, uncles, and even clan friends. Laughter and love wove through these families. Around smoky fires, parents teased one another. Children played chase, and grandparents spun wild stories that mixed memory with imagination. Humor softened hardships, a father joking that his mate's snoring scared off wolves, or a mother rolling her eyes as her partner proudly showed off yet another chipped stone knife. The Stone Age didn't erase human quirks, it amplified them. The shocking truth is that emotional bonds mattered as much then as now. In a world of danger and hunger, affection and partnership created stability. Families weren't perfect, they argued they struggled, but the ties of love and shared responsibility made survival possible. The clan wasn't just a unit of labor. It was a circle of care, connection, and belonging. As night settles over the camp, the firelight softens, and families huddle together under hides. A child curls against their mother's chest while a father rests a protective arm across them both. Outside, the wind moans and predators roam, but inside, there is warmth, comfort, and love. Even in the harshest times, tenderness glows in the dark, reminding us that humanity has always been about more than just surviving. It has always been about caring too. Deep in the recesses of caves, where shadows press close and the smell of smoke lingers, early humans left behind one of the most mysterious legacies of the Stone Age cave art. Strange shapes, painted animals, handprints, and swirling lines still glow faintly after tens of thousands of years, as if whispers from long ago cling to the stone. Honestly, if you stumbled into one of these caves with a flashlight, you'd probably think, wow, they invented their own art museum, just with fewer security guards. The mainstream fact is that cave art is found across the world, from Lascaux in France to Altamira in Spain, to lesser-known sites in Indonesia and Africa. The paintings often feature animals, bison, deer, mammoths, horses sometimes drawn with astonishing realism. To this day, many people still believe these images were just decorative doodles, but researchers increasingly argue they had deeper purposes: hunting guides, spiritual rituals, or even teaching tools for younger members of the clan. A quirky tidbit lies in the discovery of hand stencils made by blowing pigment over a hand pressed against the wall. Some are so small that they must have been made by children as young as 3. Picture toddlers gleefully spraying ochre spit through straws of bone, giggling as their tiny handprints glowed red against the rock. The Family Art Wall Stone Age edition. Another odd detail: some paintings seem to flicker with the movement of torchlight, almost like early animations, as if the artists wanted their mammoths and deer to move when illuminated by fire. The first prehistoric cartoons, perhaps. The act of painting was likely communal. Imagine people gathering deep in a cave, torches, casting eerie shadows, pigment ground from minerals mixed with spit or fat. The air fills with smoke and whispers as figures emerge from stone horns, hooves powerful lines of running creatures. Was it prayer magic, or simply storytelling, a way to relive the thrill of the hunt? Scholars debate endlessly, but the truth remains elusive. Some argue that cave art was shamanistic, tied to trance states induced by flickering firelight and the claustrophobic darkness. Others see it as early record-keeping, like a hunting manual etched in color. And then there's the theory that some paintings were visual gossip depictions of memorable events, like, "Remember when we all chased that giant bison and nearly got trampled?" Whatever the case, the effort put into these artworks is staggering, especially considering that pigments had to be carried into caves and torches constantly relit in the suffocating dark. Humor surely crept into the process. Imagine a group of hunters drawing an impressively large bison, while one joker adds a stick figure beside it, spearing it with exaggerated flair. The others laugh, shaking their heads at the prehistoric comedian who couldn't resist doodling. Some handprints even include missing fingers, which researchers debate. Was it ritual sacrifice, frostbite, or simply someone bending their fingers as a joke? The shocking truth is that these cave paintings remind us that Stone Age humans weren't just surviving. They were dreaming, imagining, and creating meaning. Their lives weren't endless struggles with hunger and fear. They had moments of wonder, reflection, and expression. They turned bare walls into canvases, transforming darkness into a stage for their visions. As torches sputter and the last strokes of ochre dry on stone, the artists step back. The animals seem to shimmer, caught between worlds, alive in shadow and flame. The clan carries these images in their minds when they step back into the cold night, emboldened by the belief that art itself might have power. And as the stars wheel overhead, the painted bison and mammoths continue to run, not in flesh and bone, but forever across the walls of memory. Illness in the Stone Age wasn't something you could fix with a quick trip to the pharmacy. A sore throat could become deadly, a broken bone might never heal properly, an infection was a constant threat. And yet, against all odds, people developed ways to heal each other, some ingenious, some terrifying, and some that make modern medicine look like magic. Honestly, you'd think twice about complaining about the taste of cough syrup if the alternative was having your skull drilled with a stone tool. The mainstream fact is that Stone Age medicine combined observation plants and sheer experimentation. Archaeologists have found Neanderthal teeth, with traces of yarrow and chamomile herbs still used today for their soothing and medicinal properties. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, pollen remains clustered around a 60,000-year-old skeleton, suggests the body was buried with healing plants, hinting that knowledge of herbal remedies was widespread. To this day, many people still believe prehistoric people left the sick behind. but evidence shows communities cared for injured members sometimes for years, suggesting compassion was as vital as survival. A quirky tidbit comes from skulls found with neat round holes, evidence of trepanning, the practice of drilling into the skull. Shockingly, many of these patients survived as bone regrowth around the hole shows. Why drill into someone's head with a flint tool? Theories range from releasing evil spirits to treating seizures to relieving pressure after injury. Whatever the reason, it was the Stone Age version of brain surgery performed without anesthetic. Imagine lying there as sparks fly off the stone blade while your family chants prayers beside you. Day-to-day healing often began with plants. Willow bark, which contains salicylic acid, the basis of aspirin, could ease pain. Garlic acted as a natural antibiotic. Honey smeared on wounds helped prevent infection. People chewed pine resin to soothe coughs, or used moss and spider webs as makeshift bandages. Even heat played a role. Fire-warm stones pressed against aching joints worked like primitive hot packs. Debates among scholars focus on whether these practices were guided by genuine understanding of cause and effect, or whether ritual and magic shaped the treatments. Was a herbal poultice applied because someone saw it heal before, or because it was blessed by a shaman's chant? Likely it was both. Medicine and magic blurred because in a world without microscopes curing a fever and driving away an evil spirit looked almost the same. And humor. It must have slipped in. Imagine a healer grumbling, "If this doesn't work, at least you'll smell like garlic," as they mash up a paste. Laughter even then could ease suffering. Perhaps the jokes were part of the therapy, a way of lightening fear in the face of pain. The shocking truth is that Stone Age people weren't passive victims of disease. They were resourceful healers experimenting with plant stones and rituals to ease pain and save lives. They blended intuition with trial and error, leaving behind not just skeletons, but evidence of remarkable survival. One Neanderthal skeleton shows severe injuries that healed long before death, proving that others must have cared for him. Without help, he would have perished quickly. With it, he lived on. As night falls, a sick child lies curled under animal skins, a poultice pressed against her fevered forehead. Beside her, her mother hums a soothing tune, while an elder crushes herbs into powder. Smoke rises from a burning sprig of sage, filling the air with sharp fragrance. Outside, predators howl, but inside, a circle of care holds steady. In the Stone Age, healing wasn't just about plants or rituals. It was about compassion, courage, and the determination to fight for every breath. When most people picture Stone Age fashion, they imagine shaggy cavemen draped in rough animal skins, all looking like extras from a low-budget movie. But the reality is more stylish and surprising. Humans of the Stone Age decorated themselves with shells, beads, feathers, and ochre pigments, turning survival gear into something closer to couture. Honestly, you might have rolled your eyes at your friend's overpriced necklace, but a mammoth ivory pendant would have been the hottest accessory of its time. The mainstream fact is that clothing and adornments served both practical and symbolic purposes. Archaeologists have uncovered bone needles dating back nearly 40,000 years complete, with tiny drilled eyes suggesting that people stitched together fitted garments rather than just tossing hides over their shoulders. In cold regions, tailored clothing lined with fur was essential for survival. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age folks wore crude rags, but finds like beads, pendants, and carefully sewn outfits prove they cared about appearance as much as protection. A quirky tidbit comes from ornaments discovered in graves. At Sungir in Russia, 2 children were buried with over 10,000 ivory beads, each painstakingly carved and sewn into their clothes. It would have taken hundreds of hours to create such finery. Imagine the patience of threading bead after bead, only for it to be placed in the earth forever. These weren't just trinkets, they were statements of identity, wealth, or spiritual belief. You could almost say they had Stone Age burial bling. Body paint was another form of fashion. Ochre ground into powder and mixed with fat or water was smeared on skin and hair. Scholars debate whether it was for beauty protection from the sun or ritual purposes. Some say ochre symbolized blood and life. Others suggest it acted like ancient sunscreen. Either way, striding into camp with a crimson-streaked face must have made quite an impression. And yes, you'd have needed a lot of confidence to pull it off. Debates rage about how universal these practices were. Did every group decorate themselves, or only those with extra resources and time? Some researchers argue that ornaments signaled social roles, hunters, shamans, or leaders, while others believed they were just early humans enjoying a bit of flair. After all, even when survival is tough, people find ways to express themselves. Humor surely accompanied this too. Picture a young hunter proudly showing off his new wolf-tooth necklace, only for a clanmate to tease niece, but it won't make you run faster. Or a child smearing too much ochre on their face, prompting laughter as they look more like a berry than a warrior. Fashion faux pas aren't a modern invention. The shocking truth is that Stone Age humans were not drab or indistinguishable. They were as concerned with self-expression as we are. Their jewelry, painted faces, and carefully stitched garments reflect a desire to be seen, recognized, and remembered. In a harsh world, beauty became a kind of defiance, a way of saying, we are more than just survivors, we are people. As night gathers and the fire's glow warms, the camp figures adorned with beads and pigments sway to the rhythm of a drum. Necklaces catch the flicker of flame, faces gleam with ochre, and laughter fills the smoky air. Fashion in the Stone Age wasn't about vanity. It was about identity, belonging, and the joy of decoration even when life itself hung by a thread. Fire in the Stone Age wasn't just a convenience, it was life itself. Without it, nights were colder, food was harder to digest, and predators prowled a little too close for comfort. The glow of flames didn't just warm fingers and bellies, it stitched people together into communities. Honestly, if your modern smoke alarm goes off from burning toast, imagine the panic of a clan watching their only fire sputter out on a freezing night. The mainstream fact is that fire mastery marks one of humanity's greatest turning points. Evidence suggests that people began controlling fire at least 1 million years ago with charred bones and hearths found in sites across Africa and Europe. Fire meant cooked food, which was easier to chew and digest, giving humans more energy to fuel their growing brains. It also meant protection, light, and a social center. To this day, many people still believe fire was easily made whenever needed, but research shows that keeping it alive was often more important than starting it. Families carefully carried embers from place to place, shielding them with bark or moss like precious cargo. A quirky tidbit emerges from caves where soot stains climb high on ceilings. Archaeologists believe this came from people deliberately using torches to light deep chambers, sometimes for art, sometimes for rituals, sometimes perhaps just to see how far the cave went. The thought of people exploring vast caverns with nothing but smoky sticks of burning resin feels both courageous and reckless. It's the Stone Age version of urban exploration, only with more risk of falling into a pit. The work of firekeeping was constant. Someone always had to tend the flames, feeding them with twigs, then logs blowing gently when embers dimmed. Imagine the tension if the fire died during a snowstorm. Panic, anger, and desperate attempts to strike sparks from flint or rub wood together. Scholars debate how common the skill of fire-making was. Some argue it was widespread, others that groups relied on natural sources like lightning strikes, guarding those flames fiercely once captured. Around the fire, life shifted into something softer. Stories flowed, tales of great hunts, warnings of predators, myths of spirits hiding in the shadows. Laughter echoed as jokes were traded. Food was roasted and tired bodies slumped close together. One can almost picture a child poking a stick into the flames, only to be scolded, "Stop playing, or you'll burn your fingers." The same lecture parents give today, word for word. Humour sparked here too. Picture a young hunter proudly boasting that he could light fire faster than anyone, only to huff and puff over damp wood, while the others chuckle, shaking their heads. Fire was serious business, but teasing made the endless chore bearable. The shocking truth is that fire was more than survival. It was civilization's first glue. It gave structure to nights turning darkness into a time of gathering rather than isolation. It allowed diets to expand, health to improve, and minds to wander in storytelling. Fire wasn't just heat, it was hope. As the flames crackle and sparks dance upward into the star-pocked night, the clan gathers closer, shoulders touching, eyes heavy with sleep. The world beyond the glow is filled with prowling beasts and icy winds, but within the circle of light there is warmth, laughter, and the soft murmur of voices. Fire has given them one more night of safety, one more chance to dream, and one more reason to believe that tomorrow might be possible. As the flames die down and darkness thickens around the camp, another sound begins to rise, a hollow beat, a gentle hum, the breathy notes of a flute carved from bird bone. Music, as strange as it seems, thrived in the Stone Age. Honestly, if you think Spotify playlists are essential, imagine living without earbuds, but still finding yourself swaying to rhythm around a fire 40,000 years ago. The mainstream fact is remarkable. The oldest known musical instruments, flutes, made from vulture bones and mammoth ivory, date back over 40,000 years. These discoveries found in caves in Germany prove that music has been woven into human life almost as long as fire. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age people were too busy surviving to bother with music, but the evidence suggests the opposite. Song and rhythm were as vital as food and shelter in holding communities together. One quirky tidbit is that some bone flutes can still be played today. When modern musicians tried, the haunting notes echoed through caves, eerily similar to simple folk melodies. The acoustics of caves themselves seem to have been chosen on purpose. Some chambers amplify sound so perfectly that they act like natural concert halls. Imagine the thrill of notes reverberating off stone walls, surrounding the audience in vibrations, perhaps even believed to summon spirits or encourage good hunts. Drumming too likely emerged early. Hollow logs, stretched animal skins, or even simple hand claps created rhythm. Around a fire, groups may have stamped feet, clapped hands, and hummed chants in unison. These rhythms bonded people together, synchronizing their movements, their breathing, even their hearts. Scholars debate whether music began as entertainment ritual or practical tool. Perhaps hunters practiced coordination by moving to beats, or mothers soothed infants with lullabies. In truth, it was likely all of these at once. The humor of music making wasn't absent. Imagine a would-be flutist blowing too hard, producing a squeaky honk that sets everyone laughing, or a drummer who can't keep time being teased as stone-footed. Music was serious in purpose, but playful in practice. Even in survival, people sought joy. The shocking truth is that music wasn't an afterthought, it was essential. It transformed silence into connection, gave rhythm to daily life, and offered comfort in fear-filled nights. In caves, where predators lurked outside music, created an invisible shield of sound, making people feel less alone. It was, in a sense, humanity's first form of therapy. As the night stretches on, the fire crackles low, and the flute's notes float upward, mingling with the stars beyond the cave mouth. Children fall asleep with the rhythm of drums in their ears. Adults hum softly as they close their eyes, and the community breathes together in harmony. The world is still dangerous, but within that circle of sound, it feels a little safer, a little warmer, and infinitely more human. By the time humans had sharpened tools, tamed fire, and painted walls, they were also beginning to do something else: surprising trade. Even in the Stone Age, people weren't just isolated cave dwellers. They were networkers, movers, and exchangers. Honestly, if you think your online shopping habit is new, imagine people trekking miles for the Stone Age version of must-have obsidian. The mainstream fact is that evidence of long-distance trade stretches back tens of thousands of years. Archaeologists have uncovered obsidian volcanic glass, used for razor-sharp blades hundreds of miles from its source. Shells from coastal regions appeared deep inland, carried along exchange routes. Ochre pigments traveled between groups, sometimes across entire continents. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age groups were isolated tribes, but discoveries prove that goods, ideas, and relationships flowed across vast distances. A quirky tidbit lies in beads made from marine shells found in caves far from the ocean. These weren't food leftovers. They were ornaments carried carefully by hand or traded from one group to another. Imagine someone proudly showing off a shiny shell pendant in a mountain valley, where no one had ever seen the sea. It was the Stone Age equivalent of a luxury import guaranteed to make your neighbors jealous. The mechanics of trade were simple but profound. Groups met at seasonal camps, shared goods, swapped stories, and sometimes forged bonds through marriage or alliance. Items exchanged weren't just practical, they were symbolic. A red ochre pigment might carry spiritual meaning, while a carved bead could be a token of friendship. These exchanges spread more than objects. They spread ideas, techniques, and even genes. Scholarly debates circle around whether trade was formalized or casual. Some argue there were early trade networks with regular patterns, while others believe it was more opportunistic. You've got shells, I've got meat, let's swap. Whatever the truth, the sheer distances these goods traveled reveal that humans were already thinking beyond their immediate group, and humor likely colored these exchanges. Picture one group handing over a bag of shiny stones, only to have the other tease, "Are you sure these aren't just rocks from your backyard?" Even then, bargaining surely included jokes, boasts, and playful banter. The shocking truth is that Stone Age humans weren't cut off from one another. They were linked by webs of trade that stretched across landscapes. These networks carried not only tools and ornaments, but also trust, alliances, and shared culture. Long before written contracts or shipping containers, humans had already invented the spirit of commerce. As dust settles and two groups meet in a clearing, fires are lit, goods are spread on the ground, and voices rise in negotiation. Shells glimmer in torchlight, obsidian blades flash sharp in the dark, and laughter punctuates the serious work of exchange. By the time the groups part ways, new ties have been forged, and the web of humanity stretches just a little wider across the Stone Age world. Death in the Stone Age was never far away. A sudden infection, a hunting accident, or a predator's ambush could end a life swiftly. Yet what's truly striking is not just how often people died, but how carefully they were remembered. Honestly, if you've ever assumed Stone Age folks just left bodies where they fell, the evidence might surprise you. They often buried their dead with tenderness, ritual, and objects that carried meaning. The mainstream fact is that burials from as far back as 100,000 years ago show deliberate care. In Shanidar Cave, Iraq, Neanderthals laid a man to rest, sprinkling him with pollen from flowers, suggesting a ritual or symbolic gesture. At Songir in Russia, 2 children were buried in garments adorned with thousands of ivory beads with spears of mammoth bone placed beside them. To this day, many people still believe Stone Age burials were haphazard, but discoveries prove communities treated death with respect ceremony, and perhaps even belief in an afterlife. A quirky tidbit emerges from graves containing red ochre sprinkled liberally over bodies. Was it decoration symbolizing blood and rebirth? Or did people think it had protective power in the next world? No one can say for sure. But the dramatic red stain left on bones gives the impression of deliberate symbolism, almost like makeup for the afterlife. Another curious case is a Stone Age grave in Italy, where a young woman was buried with a headdress of deer antlers, transforming her appearance even in death. Imagine the eerie sight of her antlered silhouette by torchlight as mourners gathered. Death rituals varied, but they often involved grave goods, tools, beads, food, and ornaments. These weren't just tokens of memory. They may have been offerings to help the dead in the next life, or symbols of who they were in this one. Scholars debate whether such practices were spiritual, practical, or both. Did they truly believe in an afterlife? Or were burials more about comforting the living, creating closure in a harsh world? Humor, surprisingly, may not have been absent. In some modern hunter-gatherer groups, funerals include jokes and teasing easing. Grief through laughter. It's possible that even in the Stone Age, someone whispered a wry comment at the graveside, nudging the living to smile despite tears. He always boasted he'd get a mammoth one day. Now he can chase them forever. The shocking truth is that death in the Stone Age reveals deep humanity. These people didn't just survive. They loved, grieved, and honored one another. They treated the dead not as discarded bodies, but as members of their community who still mattered. For all the danger and brevity of life, they carved moments of reverence into the endless struggle. As the firelight flickers against the cave walls, mourners stand in silence. Ochre stains the ground like spilled blood beads gleam in the dim light, and hands lower a body into the earth. Voices murmur prayers or stories, the living reaching across the void to the lost. Outside wolves howl in the night, but within the circle of human care the moment becomes sacred. Death is not an end here, it is a passage witnessed and remembered. For most of human history, our ancestors weren't the only people walking the earth. Picture this. You leave your shelter at dawn, and across the valley, you see another group moving through the mist. At first glance, they look human, but something is different. Their bodies stockier, their brows heavier, their faces unfamiliar. You've just spotted a band of Neanderthals. Honestly, if you think awkward neighbor encounters at the grocery store are bad, imagine bumping into a whole other kind of human. The mainstream fact is that Homo sapiens shared the world with other human species for tens of thousands of years. Neanderthals thrived across Europe and Western Asia, while Denisovans roamed parts of Asia. Fossils and DNA evidence show that encounters weren't rare, they happened often enough to leave lasting traces. To this day, many people still believe modern humans wiped out these groups purely through violence, but the reality is more complex. There was conflict, yes, but also coexistence, cooperation, and even interbreeding. A quirky tidbit lies in genetic studies. Many people today carry between 1–4% Neanderthal DNA. That means your stubbornness, your allergies, or even your ability to handle cold weather might come directly from an Ice Age ancestor who wasn't fully modern human. In some parts of Asia, Denisovan DNA boosts the ability to survive at high altitudes, so if you can trek comfortably in the Himalayas, you might owe thanks to a cousin species long gone. The nature of these encounters remains debated. Did Homo sapiens and Neanderthals share hunting grounds peacefully, swapping knowledge and even mates? Or did competition for resources spiral into violence? Some sites show bones scarred by weapons, while others suggest exchange of tools and ideas. Perhaps the truth is that interactions shifted, sometimes hostile, sometimes friendly, depending on circumstance. Imagine the tension of meeting. A human band steps cautiously into a valley, spears raised. Across the clearing, Neanderthals mirror the stance. Both groups hesitate. Do they fight? Do they share a meal? Or do they edge away, wary but unwilling to spill blood without cause? In those moments, the future of entire lineages may have hung in the balance. And humor. It's tempting to imagine it. Perhaps one hunter teased another, "Don't go chasing Neanderthal women. They'll outlift you in a mammoth hunt." Jokes even then could ease tension. Maybe laughter was part of the fragile bridge between groups. The shocking truth is that we aren't pure. We carry the echoes of those meetings in our DNA, in our bodies, in traits we take for granted. We didn't simply conquer or replace other humans, we absorbed them, blended with them, and carried their legacy forward. The story of humanity is not one of clean divisions, but of blurred lines and shared survival. As the night falls, a Homo sapiens clan huddles by fire, whispering about the strangers they saw across the valley. Are they friends? Foes? Something in between? The flames crackle, sparks rising into the dark, while the memory of stocky figures lingers at the edges of vision. Tomorrow may bring alliance or conflict, but either way, the shocking truth remains. Humanity has never been one thing, one people. It has always been many. The Stone Age was never static. One generation might grow up in a lush, fertile valley, only to see it turn to dust or ice in their lifetime. Climate shifted in dramatic, unforgiving ways, and people had to adapt or vanish. Honestly, if you complain about forgetting an umbrella on a rainy day, imagine facing a sudden ice age without so much as a raincoat. The mainstream fact is that dramatic climate swings forced prehistoric humans to migrate, innovate, and sometimes die out. Glacial periods brought sheets of ice stretching across continents, while warmer interglacials flooded valleys and changed hunting grounds. Archaeological evidence shows that groups followed herds into new territories, crossed rivers, and even spread across continents in search of stability. To this day, many people still believe humans settled comfortably in one place. But in truth, movement was a constant rhythm of life, driven by the changing sky and shifting earth. A quirky tidbit comes from the footprints found in White Sands, New Mexico, left by people as they trudged across what was then a wet, muddy lakebed some 20,000 years ago. Alongside their tracks are those of giant sloths and mammoths, proof that humans were moving through landscapes filled with enormous, now extinct creatures. The prints even show pauses and hesitations, as if people stopped to look back, weighing danger against hunger. It's a frozen moment of decision-making, in the middle of an unforgiving migration. Adapting to climate wasn't just about moving, it was about changing tools, diets, and strategies. When mammoths disappeared, people shifted to smaller game. When rivers dried, they dug wells or carried water in animal skins. Clothing became more refined in colder climates, with tailored furs keeping out the chill. Firewood grew scarce in tundra regions, so some groups turned to burning animal bones for fuel, a smoky, smelly, but effective substitute. Scholarly debates continue over how much climate change alone drove extinctions of other human species like the Neanderthals. Was it the sudden cold that pushed them beyond survival, Or was it competition with Homo sapiens sharpened by the stress of dwindling resources? Likely the answer is both climate-tested everyone and only the most adaptable survived. Humor, even in the face of hardship, surely bubbled up. Picture a weary hunter slogging through snow muttering, "Next time the ice comes, let's just move south before our toes freeze off." The others laugh, though their feet ache in agreement. Humor softens suffering, and perhaps it made each migration a little more bearable. The shocking truth is that humanity's greatest strength wasn't brute force, it was flexibility. Our ancestors endured droughts, floods, and ice by inventing new solutions and refusing to stay still. Adaptation became their survival code, written not in words, but in choices: which way to walk, what to eat, how to build, when to fight, and when to flee. As the wind howls across frozen plains, a small band trudges forward. Behind them lies a valley swallowed by ice. Ahead, the uncertain promise of warmth. Their breaths billow white, their furs whip in the gale, but their eyes stay fixed on the horizon. Each step is heavy, but also a declaration. They will not be erased. They will adapt, survive, and carry their story forward into tomorrow. Even after all the struggles, shocks, and triumphs of the Stone Age, the story doesn't end when the last cave fire goes out. The truth is that those people are still with us, woven into the very fabric of our bodies and our habits. Honestly, if you've ever blamed your sweet tooth or your sudden fight or flight panic on bad modern living, you might want to send a thank you card to your Stone Age ancestors. The mainstream fact is that modern humans carry traces of prehistoric life in their DNA and behaviors. Studies show that fragments of Neanderthal and Denisovan genes remain in us, influencing things like our immune systems, our tolerance for cold, and even our sleep patterns. To this day, many people still believe that the Stone Age is completely behind us, but every heartbeat, every instinctive flinch at a loud noise, and every craving for calorie-dense food is a whisper from that distant past. A quirky tidbit is that scientists link certain inherited genes to quirks we recognize today. Some Neanderthal DNA may make people more prone to allergies, depression, or nicotine addiction, strange echoes of adaptations that once helped survival in harsher climates. Others boost the ability to metabolize fat efficiently, a life-saving trait when mammoth steaks were rare, but a bit of a problem in a modern world filled with potato chips. The behaviors are equally telling. That rush of anxiety before public speaking, it's the same surge of hormones that once prepared a hunter to face down a charging bison. The delight in gathering with friends around a barbecue fire, that's a remnant of clan life when flames meant warmth, food, and safety. Even the way children love building forts out of blankets might be traced back to the instinct for shelter making, a playful rehearsal of skills their ancestors needed to survive. Scholarly debates continue over just how much of our modern identity is inherited versus invented. Are we bound tightly to the survival strategies of the past, or have we reshaped ourselves into something new entirely? Perhaps the answer is both. The Stone Age lives in our blood, but our minds and cultures keep layering fresh chapters onto the story. Humor sneaks in here too. Imagine explaining to a Stone Age hunter that his genetic gift for craving fatty marrow has now turned into someone's weakness for late-night cheeseburgers. He'd probably laugh or just ask where the mammoth burger stand is located. The shocking truth is this: the Stone Age never fully ended. It lingers in our DNA, in our fears, in our joys, in our cravings. We may carry smartphones instead of stone knives, wear sneakers instead of hide boots, and stream music instead of drumming on logs. But we are still at our core the children of firestone and survival. As the fire of this story fades, Picture the last flickering glow on the cave wall. The clan huddles close hearts, steady eyes drifting shut. Outside winds sweep across the dark earth, but inside there is warmth, love, and the unbroken chain of human resilience. That chain stretches forward through countless ages until it reaches you here now, listening in the quiet. And so let us slip gently from the wiles of the Stone Age into the calm of dreams, carrying with us the hum of fire, the echoes of drums, and the reminder that we are never truly alone. The story of humanity surrounds us, cradles us, and whispers us into sleep. Now, as you rest in this moment, let your body soften the way a hide softens after long use, loose, warm, familiar. Imagine the flicker of a campfire slowing, sparks rising and vanishing into the night sky. Each spark is like a thought lifting away from your mind, leaving only quiet behind. The smoke drifts gently upward, carrying the weight of the day far beyond your reach. The air around you grows still peaceful, almost glowing. You are safe within your own circle of warmth, just as your ancestors once were. Their struggles are gone, their dangers faded, but the comfort of togetherness remains. Breathe deeply, as if pulling in the steady rhythm of 1,000 fires before this one. Feel your chest rise and fall with ease unhurried, like the calm tide of an ancient sea. Picture yourself lying on soft furs, the earth solid beneath you, the stars wheeling slowly overhead. Around you, the echoes of laughter, of stories of music fade into a soothing hush. You are part of that endless chain connected to every life that came before, every story that has been told, and every tomorrow that waits gently for you. Let your eyes grow heavier, lids lowering like dusk, settling over a valley. The world outside fades into shadows, and inside there is only rest. You do not need to chase or fight or worry. You need only to be still, warm and safe. The winds quiet, the fire sighs low, and your thoughts soften until they blur into dreams. In this stillness, know that you are enough, just as those who came before you were enough. Strong, tender, and resilient. Their story flows through you, and tonight that story guides you into sleep. Rest now, drift with the stars, and let dreams bloom gently, carrying you far into peace.